Welcome to Two Psychics. This is Michael Edley, evidential medium and mystic, discussing all things spiritual.
Hello, I'm Mary Amy of Two Psychics, an intuitive wisdom coach, tapping into your mystical life and sharing messages I receive about you.
I am so excited. Tonight's episode 84 of Two Psychics podcast, Divine Abilities. We're going to be discussing with you tonight a question that comes up quite often in our private readings, in group events, in galleries that we're doing is, how do I open and connect to my divine abilities? So I am so excited to bring a lot of insight and guidance around your intuition, your psychic abilities, your mediumship, your healing, and everything that encompasses that. What is up, Mary Amy? How are you?
Hi, how are you tonight? I'm Mary Amy, intuitive wisdom coach, and tonight is episode 84. It's March 12th, 2026. And tonight we have guests, Grace Pisciotta, who's from Gracespiration, and we have Stacy Schaffer. Grace is a healer and an intuitive, and Stacy is a medium and a healer. So we have a couple of healers, a couple of mediums, a couple of psychics here. And I will get into who our guests are before they come on. Tonight, our subject is divine abilities. So I have to tell you, so this week was very interesting, very hectic. I was on Facebook one day about 3 weeks ago, and someone requested me as a friend, who I was like, whoa, when I saw this person. His name's Miles Johnson of basestv.com. And he's been around since the 70s in England. He's from Ireland, and he went on and he did, if anyone ever heard of it, pirate radio. There was a movie they made about it where there were these radio broadcasters and they were shut down, and they had this radio broadcast from the water on a boat at one point. I don't know if they left for that. I can't remember why they ended up on the boat, but he was an initial radio podcaster, pirate radio broadcaster. So he friended me, and I was like, oh my God, wow, he's so interesting, because he has all these contactees and he talks about bases and extraterrestrials, and I'm so fascinated with that. So then I guess it was like a week later, he asked me some questions. I wrote him a letter about what I do, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And then he said, when would you like to do this? He went to a conference, and long story short, we had daylight savings. So he contacted me, and I didn't know when we were going to do the show. It was all tentative. And then he contacts me on Saturday about doing it Sunday, and I get the time all wrong because of the daylight savings. It's a time difference of 4 hours instead of 5. So then we went on to do the podcast, and apparently he double booked. So it was me, and then he had a show going on another station that he was supposed to be on. Well, you can see the video on my YouTube, on my Facebook page, and you can see it on YouTube, and it is the Basis Project, and he's from basestv.com. So I'm excited. 28 minutes of it is on YouTube, and then the other hour is you have to pay for basestv.com, but you can get 4 days free. So it was exciting. And then I also had some exciting family news. So I've been really busy, and I've been carrying this gemstone around. I have to tell you, I had this when Michael Edley and I did our first live event, and I carried it around, and then I couldn't find it. And lo and behold, here's this clear quartz gemstone, which is fantastic. It's for amplifying energy. It helps with your clarity. And it's like my saving grace. And I want to let everybody know. Okay, so let me tell you about some live events coming up. Michael Edley, and he could probably tell you too, has an awareness gallery reading April 24th. We're going to start talking about all his live events and where they are so everyone can start knowing about them if they're in the vicinity of New Jersey, right?
We should probably put them in order. So let's talk about the first event, which includes both of us.
Okay.
the mysteries of psychic abilities and mediumship gallery in Pelham, New York. So that's coming up quick. That's only a few weeks out. That is April 2nd, Pelham, New York. Tickets are on sale now. You can go into any of our social media, whether it's Eye of the Spirits with Michael Edley Facebook page, whether it's our Two Psychics podcast page, Mary Amy's page. We will have links all over. You can actually go to the Manor Club, the Pelham Manor Club. You can go to their website. They will have links for this event. But we have a 300-seat theater where we are going to be bringing all aspects of what we do here to you live. So it's going to be a fantastic night. We're going to be bringing the audience through a large group meditation. We're going to be opening and tuning everyone into their intuitive psychic awareness. Mary's going to be taking everyone through this group meditation. We're going to be tuning everybody in, and then she's going to be working her intuitive psychic abilities throughout the crowd and showing people aspects of that. And then we're going to turn it over to a mediumship gallery and bring through loved ones in spirit to the collective. And that is going to be fun. And it's an old historic theater. 300 seats in Pelham, New York. I am very excited for that one. So that's kicking off the month. So that we're starting that one up. And then let
me just say the address. Just say the address.
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely. Yes.
It's the Manor Club, okay? And it's in Pelham, New York. And it's 1023 Esplanade. And it's Pelham, New York, 10803. Now, if you order them ahead of time, the tickets are $35 plus I think it's $2 or $3 because of the stage theater ticket, whatever they're called, the app. And then it's like $40 if you buy them at the door. So you're saving some money. If you want to know where Pelham is,
price for the event.
Pelham, if you've ever heard of Larchmont, Mamaroneck, New Rochelle, Mount Vernon, it's around that area. Bronxville, like a couple of days ago, I went around and I got flyers in the windows in Bronxville, in Pelham. So it's not that far. And really, I'm in Westchester as well. And it's really just about 15 or 20 minutes from your home if you're in Westchester. So Michael's coming from the Jersey Shore. So hey, everybody, please join Michael. Okay, he's a
and
very
join Mary. Michael and
he's
Mary.
a very well-known medium. He literally has a real talent agent, Michael, for this. So he's a well-known medium. Okay, so you can get him here, and you can receive a reading, possibly if you're in the audience. And it's 2.5 hours. There's going to be some refreshments. We're looking at wine, liquid, some kind of refreshment of water or something like that, some snacks.
Water, coffee, tea. We'll keep everyone pumped up a little bit on their caffeine and their tea.
Yeah, that's right. And so we're going to do that. And all right, so then let's move to the next. Michael's also doing another event.
Yes, so this is the Bloom Women's Health and Wellness Expo in Wayne, New Jersey. That's at the Wayne Powell. And that is April 18th, Saturday, April 18th from 11 to 3. So I will be doing a large group meditation and taking people through the energetic system of their body, opening and tuning the chakra system. So a large group meditation. And then Mary and I will have a booth throughout the whole day to talk about Two Psychics podcast and what we do. We'll be taking questions. We'll be talking about mediumship, about psychic abilities. So there's going to be a whole day of health and wellness at the Bloom Women's Health and Wellness Expo, Wayne, New Jersey, April 18th. And then I'm coming back down to South Jersey. So I will be down in South Jersey at Whole Body Wellness doing a gallery medium, a small gallery there. I think it's a smaller, more intimate room. So everyone there I'm going to try to get to and give a reading to. I think we're going to be about 25 people in that. So it's a more intimate event. Tickets are on sale for that right now. That is at Whole Body Wellness in South Jersey. And that will be opening to your awareness, which is a good friend of mine who we do a lot of events down here, Hannah Mary. She'll be taking everyone through a group meditation, talking a little bit about the body's energetic systems, kind of tuning and opening our energetic systems. And then I'll be coming in to do a gallery, a more intimate gallery. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be some very large events and then some more intimate stuff going on. So we have a very busy April. I have also added additional scheduling for private readings and group readings. So if you go to my eyeofthespirits.com website, my scheduling, my calendar, it is all open with new availability, and I am honoring my old pricing for anyone that's been on my wait list. So I have a coupon code already set in there, so you will be grandfathered in as long as you schedule it out before the end of this month to my old pricing structure. So you will get the in-person reading for the same price as a Zoom reading. All my group readings are all being grandfathered in as long as you schedule it before the end of March. Get it scheduled, and you could schedule that out as far as December of 26. But if it's scheduled and booked before the end of the month, you are grandfathered into the old pricing structure. So it's a significant discount.
Well, anyone out there who would like to be in touch with your loved ones, angels, spirit, you can reach Michael Edley and receive a reading. Now there's some comments here. Pam Parada says Grace is amazing. Okay, Grace is going to be coming on. We're going to talk about the Grace, and we're going to get on to divine abilities too. Lori asks, can you see us? We can see your comments, yes. Cherie Keene says, what date is that, Mike? So the last event she was asking, I believe, when we have, okay, so we have something April 2nd, and
April
then
2nd,
and then
April 18th,
April 24th, April 18th, and April 24th.
Yes, April 24th, yes, at Whole Body Wellness. And that is, I believe, is that considered Barnegat? If you go onto my events on my Eye of the Spirit with Michael Edley Facebook page, in the event section, I have all the information. You can click on that and it'll have all the links, the tickets, the date, everything that you need is all there.
She says, thank you. So everyone here, we have been at this for 2 years. And we started in 2024 January, and we've assembled 84 episodes. Mostly we do it once a week here. You can find us on Thursday evenings at 7:30, and it ranges until we're done with the interviews. Tonight, however, we have 2 guests, not 1, 2. And I'll tell you who they are, and then we'll get on to divine abilities before they come on, Michael. So Grace Pisciotta is of gracespiration.com. And I have to tell you, she sent us, when we had her originally, it might have been episode in the 40s, we had Grace. And she sent each of us this meditation box. Now you can get it on her website, and it's called, it's some kind, it's the Gracebox, the meditation box, Gracebox. It's $75. Well, in it comes gemstones, and they're in the shape of different like hearts, and they're beautiful gemstones. And this little notebook. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, it's all beat up now, but I carry this around with me because I write down my dreams, and sometimes I mistakenly leave the house and I forget to write them down. But I'm just saying, and it comes with a little feather pen, which I lost somewhere, but it's so beautiful, this box. And it comes with a chakra chart. Well, Grace is a passionate energy healer and a driving force behind Gracespiration. She's offering intuitive guidance with energy talks, Reiki healing, crystal divination, massage, and raindrop therapy using natural essential and oils. I met her at a Awaken Wellness Fair, and she stood out. She looked like glowing. She was glowing. She has a deep commitment to holistic wellness, and she helps individuals find balance, clarity, and healing through personalized sessions and spiritually inspired creations. Beyond her work, she's blessed to be married for 40 years to the love of her life and cherishes her role as a devoted mother to 4 children and a proud grandmother to 5 grandchildren, as well as a loving aunt to her nieces and nephews. She combines intuitive work, meaningful symbolism to empower transformation, healing, personal growth. Stacy Schaffer. We did a live event with Stacy in Rye, New York, and it was at Anna Marie's Wine Bar. And it was really a great time, wasn't it, Michael? In October 21st. And Stacy is a medium. She takes over well, like she just will take over, get in line and she'll give you readings. And she works in Westchester. She's a medium, a healer, astrology reader, channel guidance. I need some astrology reading. And she received channeled guidance from angels, guides, and for loved ones in spirit. She gives astrology readings, receiving guidance of your innate strengths in your birth chart. And she is an energy healer, Reiki master, and other modalities for energy healing in person. You can find her at her website, stacyschaffermedium.com. All this information is going to be listed on the description. And
Yes,
she works out of a place. What is it?
Okay, no, I'll let you finish before I.
I'm just going to say one more thing, and then you go on. She works out of a place called UniversalHealingArts.com in Cortland Manor, New York.
It was a very interesting day when I had first met Stacy. So we had a big event earlier at the Pelham Manor. It was our first experience up there. We were doing a big luncheon with the Pelham Manor group, and then we trekked into your neck of the woods, to Maria's bar, name of Maria's bar.
Anna Marie.
Anna Marie, yes. Anna Marie's one. Yes. So then we trekked in that night.
Michael, you're invisible.
I'm invisible.
It's going to be one of those nights.
Really? I'm invisible because I'm on my screen. That's kind of crazy.
This happened one other time you were invisible. Michael, did you?
I'm on my face. Okay, wait. Let's see. I'm on my Facebook page still. I'm not sure. Am I invisible still?
Yeah. I mean, I
really?
Hear you. It's so weird because you just vanished.
But you can't see me. Huh?
I can't see
How do you like that? Oh, look at that. I am invisible. All right. So I'll tell you what. It's going to be one of those nights of psychic energy.
We're in deep doo-doo now.
So let me log off really quick. You are going to hold down the fort. I will log back on.
I'll start talking about divine abilities because they're going to come on.
Okay.
All right, everyone. So I am now putting this on here too. So listen, we all have these abilities. We all have divine abilities, and it's really about whether or not we connect to them, if we activate them. How do you activate divine abilities? Well, you are going to first tune into yourself. Now, this is my opinion, and we're going to be speaking about this tonight with our guests. And everyone has their own natural way of doing that. For me, it's about connecting to myself, which is tuning into my heart. Divine abilities is our potential of truest self and natural abilities activated from within. Divine power touching the human spirit to become. Let's see if he comes on. I don't see him yet. Up there he is. Hi.
Am I back?
No.
I'm not.
Wait. You're there. I can see you.
You can see me. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I was just talking about divine abilities. This is my perception of it. We're all going to talk about this. It's our subject tonight. Our potential of truest self and natural abilities activated from within. And I just said, I activate it through my heart. That's where I started. And then the clairvoyance came because I'm empathic. Divine power touching the human spirit to become an enlightened being. So you're gathering wisdom about faith in the existence of miracles. I believe in miracles, and allowing empowerment and confidence with proof. A desire to learn of divine love, service to others, compassion, friendship, and respect for life. And this is how you access it, with tuning into yourself, finding love, finding compassion, and accepting yourself and embracing yourself. Maybe it's going to come through speaking with other forms of life, plants, trees, animals, humans, waters, and self, and asking for miracles. I personally call out to Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Ariel, and I ask for miracles. And I look to the archangels to guide me, to give me messages, to protect me. And that is because of my experiences in this life. This is what I receive. You can send blessings to others, and you can cultivate yourself by empowerment. And you take over, Michael, and you explain, until our ladies get here, what you find to be your divine abilities.
Yes. Well, first off, we can all access the divine within. We all are divinely connected to source, which I refer to as God. You know, there is this omnipotent, all encompassing source energy that we are all connected to. And through that connection, we all have this divine channel that basically runs through us. We are all divinely connected, and we all possess this God-given ability to intuitively understand the energy around us, to develop our psychic abilities. And then that could be the fundamental foundation to our mediumship, to our healing, to whatever that may be for your personal unfolding. You are absolutely divinely connected. And that's one thing everyone needs to know. And I think the problem with our society today is a lot of people want to disconnect us, you know, whether that's powers of control, whether that's just us growing into our human condition of, you know, understanding we have priorities and to-do lists, and we have the family and the job, and, you know, whatever that may be to you. And that has a tendency to pull us out of our divine connection. I think the most important thing someone could do in this day and age, especially navigating the chaotic energy that we find in this world today, is connecting to our divine source abilities. And in doing so, there's a twofold section to this. So part of connection is going inward. It's this divine inward journey of learning about ourselves, learning who we are, what are our gifts, you know, what does that mean to us to divinely connect and have that conversation with source, have that personal, intimate relationship with our soul. And then once we start understanding and learning about that, then that unfolds into this outer worldly connection. And then we start seeing the divine in all things. You spoke earlier about nature, being divinely connected to nature, being divinely connected to animals, being divinely connected to all that is. And that's the basis of this. It's when we can open and tune in to the divine within, everything in our life changes. And I think that's what so many people need, and so many people could truly benefit from today with what we're seeing in the world, is when we can divinely connect. Not only are we learning so much about ourselves, and we're harnessing and controlling that energy, so we're not pulled into the chaos, so we're not reactive. So those energy cycles we're going to learn how to navigate them in the best possible way. And then in utilizing that and incorporating that into our daily life, everything changes. Relationships change. Our skills and talents flourish and grow. You know, it's just basically, it's the basis of manifestation and trying to create the ideal life for us that divine connection is the basis of that. It's the beginning, and that unfolding will allow so much insight and guidance that you hadn't had before, that you'll just wonder, why did I never learn about this, or why did I get pulled from that and not connect? And I think that's part of the human experience. Part of the human experience is tuning back into our soul, tuning back into who we truly are. You know, what is our essence? What is the essence of our being? And then once we can allow that to start unfolding, that's when we become who we're truly meant to be. And I think the really important thing that we're going to delve into tonight, which I think anybody listening can get insight and guidance from, is how did we start opening and tuning into these abilities? And we all have a different story, whether it's you, Mary, whether it's Grace, whether it's Stacy, whether it's me. We all utilize this divine connection. And I think we've all come to this path in a different way. So I think we can bring a lot of insight and guidance that even if you were born with this and you kind of pushed it away, or life got in the way and it clouded and diluted what you feel is your divine connection, it's never too late to reconnect. You're never too old to go on this journey and truly learn who you are, why you're here, and what you can bring to this world. And it completely shifts our perspective. And I think it's one of the most empowering things anyone can do. And I think what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, because we've had so many people, even in our events that we're doing and on the show, is, you know, how I'm not understanding my intuition. How can I learn to tap into that? How can I get that guidance? How can I develop my psychic abilities? If I have loved ones that have passed and I'm in this debilitating grief, how can I learn to connect and pull their energy in and have this new relationship with them in the spiritual realm? Well, that all exists when we tap into this divine connection that's inherent in every human. It is our God-given gift. It is our God-given ability. And unfortunately, society has kind of washed that out. You know, some people may think it's woo-woo crazy talk, or is there something evil around this? I can tell you absolutely not. There is nothing crazy about this. There is nothing evil about this. This is the most divine, beautiful, energetic connection we could ever have in our life. And that's the bottom line. And I think we can really delve deep into this tonight. We have we're going to call it our divine assessment panel. Mary, Grace, Stacy, and myself. And if you have any questions, that's what we're here for tonight. We want to talk a little bit about how did our path open, what got us to where we are now, utilizing these divine abilities, our intuition, our psychic abilities, our natural abilities to heal, our natural abilities to connect to our loved ones in spirit, everything that encompasses that. We want your questions. We want to know, what do you want to know about that? And I think we can give everyone some insight and guidance on where can we start? What is the foundation? What are some of the fundamentals to this? And how can each and every one of you start utilizing this divine connection, which is the basis of our intuition, psychic abilities, mediumship abilities, and anything that encompasses? We want to answer those questions. We want to know, what do you want to know about it? What insight and guidance can we talk about and we bring into this discussion that will help you understand that you are connected and you can absolutely utilize this for your highest and best?
It's so interesting that this is the subject tonight, because the last few days, like I said early on, it was hectic for me. And I started watching this movie. I'm not going to name it, but what it was all about was about this scientist who created this machine that was going to be an AI. And by the end of the movie, he had passed away because there were these activists who were blocking his successes. And his wife made this AI into something so huge, it took over a town, and then it was able to possess other people's minds and heal them, and it was going to take over and make itself a universal hive mind, one mind. And that's okay, that's okay to have this technology. However, it's more about disconnecting, and there's advantages to that. It's more what we do is about disconnecting from that and tuning into yourself. And here we are, because we cannot connect, as an AI cannot connect to divine. It does not understand consciousness, and it does not understand love, and it cannot realize or have self-realization and be human. So it's funny that I finally got through that movie. I kept rewatching it, trying to get through it, and here we are talking about it. And so I'm
Well, I
excited
think
that
that's yeah, yeah. That's the thing that people need to understand too, is when we're connecting to our divine source energy, we're going to understand things in society, whether that be movies, whether that be government and world events, politics, sports. We're going to understand that certain things are used to manipulate, control, and harness populations. And when we divinely connect and we're utilizing our intuitive mind, that intuitive energy, we're going to see through those things. And that's what I tell people is, when we start to understand, learn, and utilize this energy in our daily life, whether you're going to negotiate to buy a car, whether you're navigating a new relationship, whether you're trying to find a job, you're going to see things from a completely different perspective. And you're going to be able to navigate things with so much more insight and guidance that you have outside your just physical senses. So our intuition isn't just for someone that wants to do things like we're doing. I mean, I love doing this. I love doing readings for other people. I love doing galleries, events, these type of things. And you do too. But not everyone wants to utilize, their mediumship abilities or their psychic abilities in this way. And you don't need to, because it's a personal inward journey where we learn so much about ourselves. We can learn so much about our creativity, our insight, our talents, our skills. And then we can utilize this to bring the best into our life, whether that's a negotiation, getting insight around, the car salesman is being deceptive and you need to leave this negotiation right now because there's some underlying negative situation going on, or you're being manipulated in some way that you're not truly seeing right now in the paperwork. You're going to turn from that deal. And then in hindsight, you're going to go, wow, intuitively, I knew to walk away from that deal. And I'm so glad I did, because look at what that would have caused. Look at the pain, the suffering, the hardship that potentially would have caused. And that's the thing. When we can tune in to our psychic abilities, it's going to bring the best insight, guidance, knowledge, wisdom into any situation that we're navigating. And that is why it's so important to tune in. And it's like anything else. The more we use it, the more we're going to develop and grow in those abilities.
Okay, so our ladies are here. Our friends are here. They're in the green room.
And I have to laugh. Sherry's telling me, great trick, Mercury retrograde. So I apologize, everybody, for disappearing. I forgot I had my invisibility cloak on tonight. So
okay, so I'm going to read a couple of the comments just now, because there's quite a few, and then we're going to bring them out. I don't know if they've ever met before. So we have, let me just go back. Pam, because I had mentioned Grace, the Gracebox, which you can get on her website, gracespiration.com. And I said, Grace, that I was carrying this around everywhere I go. And Pam Parada says, I've got one of the Grace boxes. It's beautiful for so many reasons. Cherie Keene says, Cassie Marie. Gina Garcia, from one of Grace's friends from her podcast, from her.
Yes, what is up, Gina?
She says, hi, everyone. Pam says Mercury in retrograde. Then Gina says,
yes,
okay, sorry, I have to scroll down. He is transporting, LOL. John says, check your lens. Okay. Gina says, audio is perfect. Bernadette Rice Silvestri says, Bernadette Silvestri, hello. Hi, Bernadette. Hello, everyone who's joining us tonight.
What is up, Bernadette?
John says, you are back. Cherie says, great trip. Hannah K says, I think that's important part to note, being non-reactive to the outside turmoil and others' perspective. Okay, Grace.
Yes.
And then one more comment from Grace, and then we'll bring them out. And I can't really read it. Let's see. Let me see. It says, sorry guys, I'm trying to get to all these comments. Oh, doing well. Hope you both are doing well. Well, we are. I am. And then John says, I love Gracebox. Place, I love the Gracebox. Place to my friends for healing. Oh, he must give it away. Okay. So that's enough of that.
So anyone out there, though, if you have any questions,
Lisa, hi everyone. Ready to listen and learn.
Hey, what's up? Anyone out there that has a question that talks about how you develop your intuition, your psychic abilities, if you have any specific questions around intuition, psychic abilities, mediumship, Reiki, healing, astrology, any of those topics, let us know, because we are going to be doing a deep dive into all those topics and more. So if you have specific questions, we would love to hear those specific questions so we can answer that question for you.
Okay, and I'm going to bring them out. Okay, you can find our Facebook page, Two Psychics Podcast, also on YouTube. This will be uploaded in the next few days. Two Psychics Podcast, I believe it says. And all right, so Michael Ledley is IHaveTheSpirits.com. I'm MaryAmyOfficial.com. I already explained who Grace Pisciotta is, and you can reach her at gracespiration.com, and Stacy Schaffer, a healer and a medium, and you can reach her at stacyschaffermedium.com, and here they are.
Hello.
I see Grace.
Hello.
Make sure that everything's
Stacy. Hello,
taken
Grace.
down because there's an echo. Make sure that you have nothing else on. There's an echo.
I don't have anything else on.
I don't. Is there an echo? I hear it.
I hear echoes.
You're playing with retrograde again? Michael, I saw your invisible act, so I was wondering if you were back, so I'm glad you're back.
I did. I took off my cloak of invisibility. I put it away for the night.
It's retrograde. We know that.
How is everyone tonight?
Yes.
Very good. Very good. So happy to be back. Thank you for having me again.
I'm great, but I think I'm echoing like you, Mary Amy.
We are echo. It sounds like we are in an echo chamber.
We are.
It sounds
Someone
very
has
Infinity
to
dimension.
Let's see. I think echoes are stopping, or
No, they're all echoing.
a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
Well, let's start off with this. Stacy, if you can start us off on this conversation of divine abilities, how did you start tuning in and accessing these divine abilities of your intuition, psychic abilities, and how did you build upon that to be doing what you're doing now? And I'm going to mute, so we're hopefully minimize the echo. Stacy, we're going to start with you, and then Grace, we want to hear same question and what was your path and journey to where you are now. But Stacy, if you can start us off with that.
Okay. No echo. Great. It's been a long journey. It wasn't something overnight. It was something I definitely resisted just because I did not know what was happening, essentially. I was receiving messages, we call them downloads now, but at the time I didn't know what it was. So I think it's actually really natural to have some resistance to this at the beginning, especially if you really don't have an idea of what's happening, and it can be very disorienting. So it's not to scare anybody. It's just that that's what was my experience. And I think that that's experience for a lot of people. So, I mean, this started happening like 25 years ago. And I basically was the person who was like, no, that's not me. I don't want to do that. Like, so I went about my life. I was a lawyer, and I had kids, and I got married, I had kids, like I had a whole life. And then, I think that if you are meant to be on this path, it will stay with you. It will ride alongside you and will be very, very patient. until there's a time where there was like an opening, and I heard a message, and I was like, oh, okay. And I think I've told you all this before, but the message was, I was literally working as a lawyer, getting my lunch, walking across Madison and 52nd, and I was at the stoplight, and I heard clear the channel. So I was like, oh, okay, clear the channel. I didn't know what that meant, but it started something because I allowed it to come in, and it was a very gentle message too. It wasn't like some of the other messages that I had that were very much meant to get my attention. And so I sought out teachers. I sought out elders who knew better than I ever knew. And I realized this is more of a process, and people don't really, I think a lot of people don't really understand. So much of intuition development, psychic development, mediumistic development, even your healing powers come from letting go of things, right? You have to let go of a lot of your garbage. I'm just gonna, or we call it baggage, garbage, whatever you want to call it. I think for me, it was a little bit of garbage, frankly. But, and that really happens over time. And it's, like pulling back all the layers, because there's one piece of it, and then you think you're like, oh my God, I'm great. I'm free of this. And then it comes back around and it kind of hits you again. And during this time of sort of letting things go, I could let in the light. So as you let things go, you can let in the light. And the light came in, and it came in super strong, and but very naturally. And I think for me, like, everybody's development is a little bit differently. Works a little different, right? Like, so some people really get hit over the head, and then they're like totally on a different timeline, right? Mine had to develop naturally because that's what my system can handle. And if you are on this path, you're sensitive. And so your system is likely to be very sensitive. And, for whatever reason, there are people that are on this path and they have to get like hit upside the head and totally like disoriented. And that's not to say that didn't necessarily happen to me. I had a lot of things going on in my life that were extremely disorienting, until I could kind of, like, the ship was listing, right? And then I had to right my ship. So it's been a process. I started developing really in earnest and very seriously probably around 9 years ago or so. And I've just been first of all, I've been so incredibly fortunate to meet the two of you. And now I'm meeting Grace, so that's exciting. Oh, look, Michael's transported again. If he shows up here, that would be really cool.
Can you hear my voice, though? Can you hear my voice? That is bizarre.
Yes.
Oh,
To answer, I guess it's a pretty long-winded answer, but I think it's definitely true of as much as you let go is like as much light you can let in, and to free up. We all need to kind of free up our fields. I talk in auras and fields, whereas before I didn't really do that. And energy, of course. And so it's really about creating space in your field to let in information. Really what an intuitive hit is, you were talking, I love the analogy of the car salesman, right? Like, or the car, buying the car. Getting that intuitive hit, it's like you let the space, you let it into your space, into your field, so that you could accept this data that was coming in that was unspoken, right? Because that's what an intuitive hit is. It's like unspoken data that you're receiving. And we're all really good and adept actually at like keeping that out and learning to not accept that. It's like we're trained not to accept it. So here he goes again. Stay with us, Mike. Stay with us. So hopefully you're understanding a little bit of what I'm saying, or getting the piece of it of just like creating space by letting go of baggage and letting spirit really come in.
I would like to say that was beautiful how you explained it. And it made me think about how do I let more in of my essence of my abilities? And did it was it at first I said when you were talking, was it by accident? And no, I think it was for me for by prayer and embracing myself and really not counting what other people thought. And then I just kept accepting, kept accepting, kept accepting. And then the mission was more clear, more clear. My calling was more clear. There he is.
Yeah, and you used I mean, prayer, calling, mission, and none of it's an accident. None of it.
Yeah. So it for me, I love what you said, and I'm really, and it wasn't too long explanation, and I'd love to hear what Grace has to say. So let's unmute Grace and see how that goes. Wait, where's the mute button?
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my journey was not dramatic at all. It was very quiet and soft because I had, in looking back over my life, I had intuitive gifts and I had empathy and energy connection with people as a child, but I did not know what it was. I told you guys this story the last time I was on, that as a child, I always felt like if I was near someone, I could feel their emotions. I can feel what they were going through. And if someone was sad, I would sit next to them and just cry, cry, cry. And my family would say, why are you always crying? You're so sensitive. Knock that off, stop it. So I felt like I needed to shut that down because it was looked at as maybe a weakness, but I didn't understand it. And then as my life evolved, I realized that I was sensing people's energy that was in my life, being involved in caretaking of my family, whether they were sick or just taking care of my own children. I was a mom and now I'm a grandmother. I've always felt that connection that I can sense what they need to ask me without actually hearing those words. So maybe about 10 years ago, I decided that there was something to this without speaking it out loud, because I live a very mainstream life. I was a mom. I was on the PTA, and this wasn't something you spoke about. So I always kept it inside of myself. And then I realized that as children, we are never, ever told to go within to find out what we need, the answers for ourselves. We're told to look outside of ourselves and listen to other people's opinions. But I always felt like there was answers in here. So I felt a little more comfortable as time went on, and I started to study Reiki and massage therapy. And once I actually put my hands on strangers' bodies and felt that energy and where it was being stuck in their body, it was like a whole new world for me. I was like, this is something that I need to go down further with. And I just studied more and more on my own, really never took classes anywhere because I wanted to keep it quiet. My business is very young. It's only 3 years old. And that's basically how long my family knows that I was serious about this, other than my close friends and my cousins. Even my husband didn't know how serious I was because I was afraid to come out of that box. And once I did, though, it soared. I mean, I developed gracespiration.com, which is all my energy modalities. I created the intuitive tool Gracebox, which I wanted to develop because I wanted people to be able to have that time with themselves to go within and tap into that intuition with feeling comfortable with it. So Gracebox is a combination of crystals, journaling prompts, a meditation guided by me. And oh my God, that's so beautiful, Amy. So my box basically is filled with goodies, as we say. But what I love about it is that it's easy for anyone. It's accessible. It's comfortable to do because I have a set of instructions right in there. Step-by-step instructions. So you can be meditating for 20 years or never, ever meditated, and you can pick up this box and start your journey. So I think that was important for me because I think people need to start somewhere. And we all have intuitive gifts, but we don't know what to tap into. Because what I hear most often in my circles, family, friends, clients, is, Grace, I'm stuck. Help me get unstuck. And when I hear stuck, what I hear soaring around my head all the time is we're not connected to ourselves. And I wanted to come up with a way that people could start connecting to themselves. If they want to go further, like you said earlier, Michael, great. You want to develop your psychic abilities, but we need to be in touch with who we are first. Because if we don't know who we are and what we're bringing out into the world, we don't know what's coming back at us, or we don't understand what's coming back at us. So the Grace Box helps you to journal what you feel during those meditations. And over time, you start to realize the patterns you develop, some that are good that you'd like to keep, some that you want to work on, and maybe say, okay, now I understand why this is coming at me in my life. And maybe decisions are not so clear. And you start to become more aligned and lead a life of more peace and clarity. So that's really the my feeling behind every gracespiration modality that I've come up with. I have a new one, the Gracespiration Reset Method, where I try to work with people to tap into their high self, because I think that is the ultimate of us tapping into our intuition, if we understand what our high self is. And for people who don't know what high self is, it's the ultimate, the wisest, most loving part of your soul that can see beyond and help you connect yourself to the world. So that's a new method that I've been working on, because I think that's where we need to start. If we don't know what our high self is, we can't connect to ourselves. So that's my journey. And I try to keep it as mainstream as I can to connect to so many people, because if it sounds too far out there, people don't want to be involved. They're like, I'll never get there, but we can all get there. And by becoming self-aware, we start to connect to ourselves. And I think it's pretty simple. It just takes a few simple steps. And I think Gracebox can start us all there if we need the help. And thank you, Mary Amy, for carrying all my things with you and making me feel so special. I love that you carry that journal with
Isn't she good? She always has the props on hand.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. And I have all my crystals too. And here's the feather pen that you talked about that you misplaced. I'll send you another one. And the whole box is Reiki for the highest good of the person using it.
One common denominator that I hear, we're echoing a little bit. I don't know if Mary can mute us. There we go. Echo is gone. One common denominator that I hear between you, Grace, and Stacy is, I think people tend to overthink this. And I think initially people tend to think this is something outside of us, where truly what you both speak about is this inward journey. And I think anyone that's listening to us tonight and wants to start understanding their divine abilities, wants to start understanding their intuitive energy, wants to understand how to build and develop their psychic abilities, and whatever that may manifest into, is it begins on this inward journey. And like both of you, I think we all take this journey to understand, what is our soul speaking to us? You know, what is that driving force that truly makes us want to bring our light to the world, you know? And I think we do have to go on that inward journey first. And that could be the dark night of the soul. That could be uncovering, you know, a chaotic journey that unfolds and opens us into discovering this path. You know, like, I think everyone has their own unique way we find this divine connection. I don't think any two people are the same. And I think it's a very personal, it's a very personal journey that we need to take inward. And then through that, we can discover, what do we now unfold into and bring to the world. So one thing I want to talk about, so anybody listening, for this episode, we're truly talking about divine connection. How do we enhance, or how do we start that foundation? What do we start doing to utilize and engage our soul? What is the basis of this? You know, so what are some, I guess let's start talking about tips, techniques, different things that can initially, right from the beginning, ground zero, help us start to tune in to our intuitive body, our intuitive divine connection. And what can be something, you know, I'll start this off a little bit. And one thing that I know for me as a young child was art. You know, I was very into drawing, sketching. And what I would find when I would delve into my art, before I connected to anything else, and this is even at very, very young age, just, you know, scratching a pencil around, I would find that I started connecting to something beyond my body. And I think most musicians, artists, designers, creators, when they're truly creating a masterpiece, we think about the Mona Lisa, we think about any of these aspects of beauty, of art, of creativity. They all talk about channeling something beyond. We think about Mozart, we think about Beethoven, we think about Salvador Dali. You know, we think about any of these artistic talents, even creative geniuses that built magnificent architectural structures. We look at this divine inspired channel that flows through us. So for me, one of the first places that opened and started tuning me in was my creative art, and utilizing that as, I guess, a divine channel, because as I was very young, I had no idea what I was drawing or what I was trying to attempt to draw, but I know it would put my mind into this very peaceful, tranquil space, and it started opening and tuning me into something beyond my body. So I'll leave that there. And Stacy, or you want to start us off, and then maybe we can go around to Mary, to Grace, or however we want to do it. Mary's going to have to keep muting us just so we don't get that echo. But what was, and now, like Stacy, with you, you talk about it unfolding later in life, and you already had this whole career, and there were different things. So I would say I guess we'll kind of go around that way. Let's go to you next, Stacy, and talk about what were certain sparks that were occurring or happening that started tuning you in and helping you access and understand like what was going on. What was the basis and foundation that you started building upon to start this journey?
That's a great question. I love that question. I mean, you talked about art. I don't know if you can see behind me, but I paint, and I also used to be a musician, a singer. So certainly that's like a great springboard, because you are sort of connecting with, I mean, certainly when I was singing, I mean, connecting with the divine through song. And when I paint, I literally have an ongoing dialogue with, I'm not really sure who, but I trust them, and they help me. So I also noticed when I began painting that I like portraiture. And so I would paint somebody's face, but then I'd see like these other images next to it and like behind it. And once I said to my art teacher, I was like, do you see like what's happening when I'm just not focused on creating the face, but in the background? And he was like, oh yeah, look at that. That's so interesting. So that was like my first idea that there were like guides around us. But then I was interested really again in this like self-development that we've been talking about, right? And improving myself, because I had seen that things in my life were not really going the way I wanted them to or expected them to. And I mean, if I had to be honest with myself, I was the only one. I mean, there were other people in my life, but I was the one that was accountable to myself. And so I don't know what it is about me speaking that makes Mike go in and out, but maybe I do have some kind of power here, but I think he did it beforehand anyway. But so it was really that like self-reflection, self-development, self-awareness. And one thing that I really use as a practice, and it's very easy, every day, is a really quick realignment. All right. So you can do it. I mean, I can do it for a long time. I could do it for 5 minutes. I could do it for 1 minute. I could do it for 20 minutes, but I just do an alignment where I connect to the earth and I breathe into my heart. And then I breathe from my heart to a star in heaven. And then I bring that energy down, that heavenly energy, into my heart. And I bring up that earth energy into my heart. And then I expand it. And so as I'm breathing it in, I increase it. And as I breathe out, I expand. And that actually brings light into my field. It expands my field, and it clears and calms me too. So like I said, you could do it anywhere, because, you know, if you have a door that you can close, maybe in an office, or, I mean, you know, even if you work at a cubicle, you can just close your eyes for a minute, put your 2 feet on the ground, your hands on your desk, and just realign yourself. And it's energizing too. It doesn't mean that I don't have coffee, but if coffee is not available, it is definitely something that can just quickly energize you. And like I said, it's an opener and an expander.
Okay, so Michael's gone. Would you like, let me back. Would you like to share your path, Grace, and tell us how it happens for you or happened to you?
Blog. I write down all my emotions. So that's always been an outlet for me. And I realized, looking back, that when I had all these emotions and this empathy and I was connecting to people's energy, the way I was releasing it is with writing. So I've been writing my whole life. So I like to help other people, clients, with journaling, because I think sometimes people say, okay, well, you can write. You have a talent for writing. What do I do? And I like to tell them, listen, you can do automatic writing. Whatever emotions come to you, write it down. Put on your favorite song. Put on a sad song if you're having a bad day, and just write what comes to the surface, because there's always something in that. And as we continue to write, we can follow that journey through a couple of days, even a couple of hours, whatever it is that you need to do to work on. But something always comes up. And for me, to ground myself every day, I do start my day with, saying my prayers to my angels to connect with me and get me through the day that I need, whatever I need for my highest good. But I think for some people who are starting out, and I say mainstream because I have a lot of clients that are like, I don't understand all this. So we start with simple things. Put on your favorite song and dance, because when you're trying to feel what energy feels like and what you're connecting to, how do you know you're connecting to yourself or to something outside yourself? I tell them, put on your favorite song and dance, and close your eyes and think of the most beautiful feeling, whatever lights you up inside. What does that feel like? Because to me, it's about teaching people to feel and not just talk about the words. Say, hey, journal, let's read this. Let's feel what this feels like. So if you do something positive, what does that feel like? And then on the same note, put on a sad song. And what does that do for you inside? You're connecting to your sadness and what prompts that sadness. That's your intuition. And if you learn to listen to that, it guides you your whole life, and you'll always make the choice that's right for you. But we tend to ignore that. But those inner feelings are our intuitive guidance. And I think if we make it that simple, people could start to understand. So that's where I start. Start feeling. And if it's music for you, put on music, dance, write down what comes up while you're doing something happy or something sad, and then read it back and go over it with yourself and see how you feel with it. And little by little, you start to connect that intuitive feeling to the energy that's around you. And I just think that works so well. And it works for myself. I do it for myself all the time.
Hi. Okay. So for me, I was very shy, and I isolated myself, and I was really only close to a few relatives growing up. So it was easy for me to figure out what made me happy, which was art. Like we've all been saying this tonight, I'm creative. I would do watercolors, I would paint, and I would express myself, and I prayed, and I always thought that there was another reality. I always believed that there were angels, and I had so many emotions from others because I didn't know how to work my muscle of being empathic. And then after I found my way by accident, or I guess it was a catalytic event, I say, when I was doing these reality show pitches, and the talent agent said, why don't you do it about healers and mediums and psychics? And I always knew I had these abilities, but I didn't really express it to anyone. I didn't tell anyone. And then after I was around these people, I was like, oh my God, these are my people. And I started really accessing ways and learning. And I was around a healer, and I was around light. And then everything started to make sense. And then I couldn't get into it fast enough. I raced towards it, whatever I could. And I became certified as an intuitive coach. And then I became certified as a Reiki master. And then I became an ordained minister. And then it all just kept coming. And I just learned. And what I'm going to share is, yes, no, we don't have to be a psychic or a healer, like officially, but you for yourself, it's great for your life if you access your intuition more. How do I say to do it? I say you ground yourself. You don't have to go on full on into anything. It's not that complicated. It's pretty simple. For me, at least, I say tune into your heart. The more you connect to yourself, but accept it and don't have doubt. The more you accept yourself and you say, okay, maybe I want to learn about this, then the more will come to you. And then you will find your natural abilities. You will be able to access which clair senses you can connect to. And and it's fun. It's fun. I mean, there's highs and lows of it. And the more you want to do it, the more will come to you. So, okay, that's it.
Anyone out there listening to this should understand is our intuition comes in very quietly. This isn't something that's going to just jump out and beat you over the head and is going to be like seeing this movie appear in front of you. Sometimes it could be so subtle as a piece of information coming between your thoughts. And what we have to understand is when we're initially working with this energy, when we're initially out again, am
You're
I
gone.
here? Is my voice
No,
still?
you're gone.
Is
You're here. Your
is my
voice
voice
is
still here?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just finish this out with my voice. I have my cloak of invisibility on, and then I'll hand this off to each of you, and I'll log
This is
back
one
in.
of
I
your,
don't know. We have
one of your
so much
psychic
psychic energy.
abilities.
So first off, I will say everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. And when we're tapping in and utilizing this psychic energy, electronic stuff can go haywire. So whether that's your phone, whether that's lights flickering, whether that's a radio, a TV, whatever it may be, we can absolutely affect electronics. But I want to just talk about this being very subtle. You know, this is something that can almost interblend with our own senses. So you may all of a sudden be sitting there and start to smell the fragrance of a rose, or you may start to smell the fragrance of a cigar or a cigarette. And that could be spirits stepping in and you're starting to pick up an aspect of them. And again, when we're hearing things, it can almost be as if it's your own voice, but it's not necessarily something you would say. You're almost hearing it in between your thoughts. So that's the first thing. Anyone that's trying to develop and understand their intuition, part of the process is getting out of the way. What is the saying? Let go and let God. Well, that's the human side of us wanting to control things, wanting to, the left brain, you know, wanting to analyze, wanting to rationalize, wanting to say that was a coincidence. Well, we have to let that go. And we have to understand that some of these signs and synchronicities and some of this energy coming into our energy field is going to be very, very subtle. So that's part of the process is don't overthink it. Understand that the information can be coming to you in a very subtle way. And that could be the basis of you getting insight and guidance. So I'm going to log off now. So I'm going to start the conversation like that. If each of you can kind of, let's take that and let's talk about your own experiences, your own insight, your own guidance, maybe something that one of your mentors had discussed and talked about with you. But what can we talk about with our audience today that can start helping you tune in and develop your intuition into that psychic ability and awareness? And then from there, that could be the basis of everything else unfolding. So I guess we'll keep in that same pattern. Stacy, if you can kind of jump in and talk about what your experience or some technique that you can explain to our audience that they may benefit from.
Okay. I do have a really kind of quick technique, and I think everybody here can do it. And I really love that you acknowledge that this is very, like, intuition is very subtle. It is like that little silent whisper of a voice, right? And you know, we can choose whether or not we listen to it. So, so the really super quick exercise that you can do to strengthen your intuition is literally using, like, did anybody ever play that game, Red Light, Green Light, 1, 2, 3, back in the day? I did. That's how old I am. But it, just imagine like a traffic light. If you need to get an answer for something, we'll go back to the car example that Mike used earlier. And you can ask yourself, be like, is this the right car for me? And just like imagine a traffic light. And if the traffic light is red, I would listen to that. I would not proceed. If the traffic light is yellow, just go slow and make sure you don't buy the car during Mercury retrograde. And you know, if it's green light, you've got the go ahead, you know, keep going. This actually will strengthen your intuition because you'll build trust in yourself. one of the hardest things about developing our intuition is actually not that we need to develop it. We just need to listen to it. We are sort of programmed. We were talking before about listening to other people. I think it was Grace that said, you know, she was so sensitive, but her family was like, develop a thick skin. You can't be that, you know, don't be so sensitive. And so we're trained out of these natural gifts that we have, right? It seems like counterintuitive to, you know, use a little pun there. But anyway, so red light, green light. If it's too much to put the yellow light in, just do the red light and the green light, and you will get answers that feel natural to you, and they'll be helpful. And that's the other thing. When you use your intuition, or you hear yourself talking to you, that's like kind of yourself, but it's not yourself. The messages that you need to hear, if they're not helpful or positive, they're not really messages. That's your ego, that's something else, and you don't need to listen to that. So I just want to say that because I don't want it to be like misinterpreted that, oh, I heard this, you know, voice told me to do something. It should be helpful and positive. Also, just the other thing too, that's really important if you're going to develop any kind of ability, it's to be service oriented or mission oriented. Like I don't do this work, I mean, because I'm not doing this actually to get attention. I'm doing it to help people. I really want to help people. And sometimes that help comes in the form of bringing through a family member or a loved one that has crossed over. And sometimes that help comes through understanding something in their life that might need to change, or having some insight into situations that are happening now that I can give them a different perspective on. So always, sort of the backbone is to be service oriented for me. And I think that people that are service oriented and want to help and uplift other people, those are the best people to see. They are the best usually they're the best providers at this craft, at this art. And so I just think it's really important to put a fine point on that this is a service that we do out of love. At least I do it out of love. And I will say that you would not recognize the person that I was before I started on this path and the person that I am today. I'm completely different. And I'm much more open and loving. And I think I've always was nice and kind, but it's different. It's a kindness that comes with seeing like the potential for greatness in everybody that I see and meet. And I don't see people the same way I used to. I see everybody. I mean, in yoga, we see, you know, the light in me sees the light in you. And that's actually true. Like I see the light in people just because I've developed in this way. And I just feel so grateful and lucky to all of my mentors, all of the people that have helped me along the way. But it definitely it can be a real commitment if you want to go along this kind of a path. But start easy, start simple. Do the red light, green light. You'll see it could change your life. You never know. So.
Grace?
Yes, Grace.
Can you hear me?
Grace.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if my mic was on. So Stacy, I love that analogy, the red light, green light, because instead of visualizing the red light, green light, like I said earlier, I like to tell my clients, because this is what I do for myself, is to feel what a red light, green light feels like. So a lot of times I'll get the question, people will say to me, how do I know it's my intuition and it's not my ego? So you can feel the difference. Your ego is reactive. Your ego is strong. It brings in fear and anxiety, whereas your intuition is calm and it's guiding and it's loving. It feels totally different in your body because our ego is meant to protect our brain, protect our mind, protect us, whereas our intuition and our soul is meant to guide us and bring us on the right path. So I tell people, like I said before, if you close your eyes and feel those different scenarios, you will absolutely know which one is your ego and which one is your intuition, and which one will bring you down the path of enlightenment and transformation and bring you to the beautiful life that you're trying to, possess and bring out to the world. Whether you are a healer or practicing like we are, or you're just trying to do that for yourself and be a better person in this world. So I think the ego takes over a lot. And I think it's really important that we teach people the difference between the two. And once you can feel the difference, I think that moving forward, you always have the right answers for yourself. It's just acknowledging what the difference is. It's that simple for me. And that's what I try to teach. Again, simple measures. But I feel like that red light, green light is perfect because that's exactly how I feel. Is it a red light or is it a green light? So I like that analogy, Stacy. I think I'm going to use that. Put a feeling to those lights, colors. And that's what really works for me.
Okay, I'll
Thank you,
go ahead,
Grace.
Michael.
Yep. You're up, Mary.
Okay. Is it okay? Is it Michael? Okay. So wait, is it off? Yeah. So for me, what I've always done is I've done a lot of listening, and I've just heard, which actually has taken me into so many other areas. So I came from listening and then observing. So I observe other people's patterns, and somehow I became more aware of the combination of the visual and the sound and someone's energy. So it's almost like they kind of gave themselves away. So I was able to become more in tune with my environment, if that makes any sense. And I would look for signs, and I would look for validation, like synchronistic events would happen. So if I was on the right path, I don't know if this is making any sense. If I was on the right path, there would be a synchronistic event, which is things that come, an event that comes together that has nothing to do with anything, but you see it. And it's like if you are talking about writing a book and then you go get a cup of coffee and the guy standing there next to you is buying coffee and he's like, oh, well, I just sold my bestseller. And that would be a sign. Oh my gosh, I'm on the right path. So I'm always looking for that. So for myself, I've done, like I said, the listening, the observing, the prayer I mentioned before. And then it's really for everyone else. And this is a twofold. It's helping and healing. So I was always interested in helping someone else since I was a little kid. How can I help you? Which got myself into trouble doing that. And then came the healing. And I learned about the healing in time. And it was, you speak about this red light, green light. And I know Michael has said this, but I learned from someone who trained me to be a certified intuitive coach. It's about volume. So you turn the volume up if you want to receive more, and you turn it down if you want to receive less. So if you start to become more aware of your intuitive abilities or your intuition, do you want more? Turn it up or turn it down to receive less.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great way that we can explain this. And that's some way that I try to explain it is we're always in control of this situation, So I've had people come to me and say, what if I'm always connected? What if spirit's always coming to me? They're always in my mind. They're always in my head. Well, rule number one is we are always in control. So I like to explain this as a volume knob. If we look at the old school radio, sometimes, like if I'm going in to do a gallery, I'm going in to do a session, I'm going in to try to gain insight and guidance in my own meditation, I'm going to have that volume knob at a 10. But if I'm driving in the car and I'm just listening to music and I start going in and out a little bit, maybe that volume knob is on a 1, or maybe I have it completely turned off. We have to develop our own language and our own guidance to understand how to harness and control this. And that's what I would like everyone to see it as. See it as a volume knob. And there's going to be points where you're trying to open and be more receptive to that collective energy. And there's going to be times where we have to turn that down and shut that off, because not all places, spaces, days, and times should you be completely open. But there's going to be moments where you have to be completely open, and then you're going to have to learn how to shut that down or turn it off. Otherwise, you're going to be a sponge picking up on everybody's energy. You're going to wonder why you just went shopping and you're leaving with your bag and you have a panic attack or this anxiety ridden breakdown, or you become angry. Well, that's because you've allowed yourself to absorb somebody else's energy. The more we start working with our intuition, our psychic abilities, and we understand our internal and the external energies around us, the more we're going to be able to harness and control that energy and not be affected by the chaos that's going on the news. You're going to start to learn what to tune out, what to focus in on. So again, we hear that saying, where your focus goes, your energy flows. That's something to hold close to your heart and be very aware of. Where you're putting your focus, your energy is going to flow to. So if you're focusing on aspects of negativity, aspects of pain, aspects of sorrow, you're going to be more focused and tuning into that. If you're trying to pull into those higher vibrations, happiness, joy, that elative, creative energy that flows through us when we're in that zone and we're writing that concerto, we're painting that masterpiece, that high energy frequency vibration is what we want to tune into. But we have to start working with the energy. We have to understand how we're feeling certain things, how we're tuning into it, how we're absorbing external energies, how we're allowing our energies to flow through us. So it's a process. It's a process of unfolding. But the one thing we can always keep as a constant is where your energy, where your focus goes, your energy will flow. So be very mindful of your energy. That's step one. I'm going to just touch base a little bit on what everyone's talked about now. Stacy had talked about coming from a place of service. And I think that is one of the most integral things we can adhere to. If we're doing this as a self-serving thing, we're trying to get something up on somebody else. We're trying to harness and control or manipulate a situation in a negative way. Nothing good is going to come from that. And honestly, I do believe that's drawing us more into a negative vibration. And we have to understand this is all about energy, frequency, and vibration. And I'm going to take a little dab into the mediumship realm here. And as a medium, we're trying to ground and raise our energy. We're connecting with our sitters' energy, who are also trying to help stay grounded, open, raise their vibration. And the collective realm, our loved ones in spirit, our angels, our guides, they're lowering their vibration, and we're reading a language of energy in between. So that may be names, symbols, letters, pieces of knowledge imprinted on us that we don't know, trying to bring through evidence, validate life after death, validate your loved one is around you. So the higher we can bring our vibration, joy, happiness, that elation through creativity, the easier it's going to be to kind of pull that information through out of that collective realm. So again, energy is an integral focal part of what we're building upon here. And being of service is something that can absolutely put us into a different mindset, a different mind frame. I'm going to speak from my own experience. Now, having mediumship abilities from a very, very young age was very chaotic for me. I was very lucky that my family didn't institutionalize me, think I was schizophrenic, or want to lock me up. I'm very, very lucky. My one grandmother was, once I was Hungarian gypsy, she would read palms. She was very big into reading tea leaves, the stars. She was very big into energy. The other side, very devout religious background, very, very Catholic religious. But I'm very fortunate they were open and tuned into the saints and the charismatic aspects of Jesus and the angels, and we can connect to their energy. We can pray. We can bring ourselves into that higher consciousness to try to get insight and intercession into our lives. So when I started talking to spirits, I wasn't institutionalized or committed to, to the insane asylum. They kind of embraced it, like, what's going on here? But I could tell you through this process, I initially started utilizing my psychic abilities in a very self-serving way. So as a young kid, dating, trying to, manage my way through, high school and different situations and scenarios, I found that I was utilizing my psychic energy, my psychic abilities to not do, I wouldn't say do negative things, but I was trying to utilize them to manipulate, harness, and control situations rather than be of service, rather than to give back, rather than utilizing it for the highest good of everyone around me. I was using it in a very self-serving way. I was trying to personally benefit from that. And what I found is it led me down a dark path, and it led me down a path of more isolation, more, what I would say, when we're focusing on that self-serving energy, not only will it deplete our own energy, and it can negatively align us to certain things that we may feel are the right thing, but aren't necessarily what is meant for our highest, best, and good. And when I started switching that energetic cycle and started seeing, wow, my soul isn't calling me for this. Like that, I did. There were certain situations that I would manipulate in a psychic way, and I would get the outcome I wanted, but I didn't necessarily feel good about it. And that sat on me hard. And I started like reflecting on that. And when I started seeing how me manipulating a situation could negatively affect other people and negatively affect their outcome, I started looking at things differently. And like Stacy said, when we start to see that this is something that is it's a beautiful process that we can learn and grow into, and it can be helping others, being of service, trying to bring the best into our own life, but bring, I would say, closure, bring guidance, bring wisdom, bring knowledge in the best possible way to someone else. There's nothing more gratifying and rewarding than that. And I can tell you, and I'm sure Stacy can vouch for this too, is if you're sitting with a parent that lost a child or a spouse that lost their loved one, and you can show them that through the evidence, through the guidance, through the pieces of knowledge that I would not know, that your loved one is still connected to you, and they want to draw their energy and connect to you just as much as you want to connect to them. And you can show them that they're still around, and you can open up that conversation, and you can feel that love kind of almost flourish and start to gain this new trajectory. And it totally shifts their aspects of grief and depression or what they're going through. And, everyone experiences grief in their own way. But I think when we open up the conversation to show someone that their loved ones are around, they're still connected to them, and death of the physical body does not mean death of their connection to that person. The love and the beautiful energy that can come from that can completely shift the trajectory of someone's life. And for me, it was when I let go of trying to control it, trying to use it for self-serving purposes, and I saw my soul was calling me to change trajectory. That's that it started mattering to me.
You
And
vanished.
that's true. And I vanished, but I'm going to finish out my story before I hand it off. That's
And then
truly.
I have a question after you're done.
Yes. But again, like Stacy talks about, when we truly align with this being for the highest and best for everyone involved, and it's something of service, and we're giving back, the whole dynamic and beauty of it changes.
Yeah, and I just want to add in, Mike, when you get feedback from people that the reading or the session, or even Grace, the healing, or Amy, the coaching, whatever that you're doing for the person, when you get feedback,
Mary, it's Mary.
Sorry, Mary. I looked at Amy, sorry. That when you get that feedback, it changes you too. Like that you have changed their life, it changes you as well. And just to be the conduit for that is the greatest honor. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but I mean, I recently, somebody gave me feedback, like, what you did totally changed my life. And all I did was surrender and become a conduit and let that person know that it was possible to change her life. And that's it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most important things for someone that wants to develop into being a working medium. We have to understand that we are just the conduit. And the more we try to interpret it in our, the more we try to interpret it in our way, the more we try to use it for self-serving purposes, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more we try to use it for negative, the more we try to use it for negative. And the more probably the less accurate it's going to be. And I think I may have disappeared. Did I disappear again? Sorry. We have some powerful, we have some powerful psychic energy going on here. But again, we are just the conduit. And I'm sure, Stacy will speak about that. And the energy is just flowing through us. And when we allow ourselves to be of service and just be that conduit, that's truly when the most evidential, authentic information is going to come through. We're not trying to control it. We're not trying to manipulate it. We are just being a divine conduit for your loved one in spirit to bring that information and guidance through. Funny thing too, I'm going to talk a little bit as I'm just here in the abyss here with my invisibility cloak on. What we're feeling right now, I think the power of our collective energy. And there's one thing that I think everyone can utilize, and that's the power of prayer, of manifesting, of developing some type of practice, whether that be a meditation, whether that be some type of creative outlet. It's when we can allow our energy to flourish in that way, it's going to allow our intuitive abilities, our psychic abilities, our mediumship abilities to flourish in unbelievable, unexpected ways. And we hear a lot about the power of collective prayer. When we're combining our energy with others also in a loving way to try to manifest the highest and best good, magnificent things can happen. And I say my feed cutting in and out is firsthand showing you how powerful collective energy can be, powerful collective psychic energy. But Grace, would you want to talk a little bit about, kind of taking this in whatever you feel called to talk about?
Can I just ask a question, though? I want to ask a question.
Oh, yeah. We can, yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is my question. And it's related to what we're talking about. I would like everyone to share, if they would like to, and it can be as specific as you want, about when you first started practicing this. Maybe it was your initial client in the very beginning. And can you tell us a story of what happened to you? Either it went very well and you were just starting to do this, so you're like a little nervous. Am I going to be good at it? Or like something that went really well, or it didn't go well, so that people can have an understanding of an experience doing this. Because a lot of it is more formatting it, but not telling how it goes. So if everyone would like to just tell a story about how it went for them, good or bad, just so our audience can hear something real.
I'll go if we're going to keep the same format. Okay, I'm almost always nervous when I read, because I think it's a combination of energy and expectation and excitement and just not knowing what's going to happen, right? Because we can't rehearse for what we do. And so, I mean, just before I give a little story, what I didn't understand, which maybe I was a little naive, which I can be naive, when I started doing this kind of work, was that the resistance that I would encounter when working with others. So I thought, if somebody scheduled a session with me, like they would be open and excited as I was. But we all have our it could be unconscious, whatever sort of resistance that we have. So I will tell you, there was a client that I had, and she came, and it turned out she was a lawyer, and I knew she was a lawyer. I just didn't say it. I just was like holding that for whatever reason, because she was very proud when she told me she was a lawyer. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And I did the reading, and she had a lot of questions, and she did tell me no about certain things. And it was a very difficult reading because she had these So the two things that we deal with are resistance and expectation, right? So if you have a question, a lot of times people have an answer that they think it's going to be or want it to be, right? So you're like, there's like, I would call that energetic friction for the reader, right? Because I'm only going to give you or a client what it is that I'm receiving. And so it was very difficult. She resisted a lot. She told me a lot of no's. And then she booked me again like a year later, and she looked completely different. It was kind of like, have I met you before? You look sort of familiar. And she just looked so much more open. And she was like, well, you read for me about a year ago. And since then, like, what you told me came true, but I denied it. And so I'm just going to let you do what you do now for this reading. So it was really, really validating, just as like the service provider, that something like an exchange that was so difficult actually turned out to be very productive for the person. And I did unfortunately like predict something that wasn't great, but she just didn't know at the time. And that's the other thing too. I always say to people, you can't tell me yes if it hasn't happened yet. So for example, I did a reading for somebody the other day and I said, oh, I'm seeing like a tilt-a-whirl and a roller coaster. Do you understand that? And the person said, no, I don't understand it. And I said, okay. When I went on with the reading, and I did bring her son through, and it was a good contact. That's what we call it. That's like the lingo. It's good contact. And a couple of days later, she was like, oh my God, Stacy, my grandson went to the amusement park and he went on the tilt-a-whirl and the roller coaster. So it was something she couldn't validate yet because it actually hadn't happened yet. And it was her loved one in spirit, her son, observing or telling like what the future would hold for his nephew. So that's an example. And I mean, I have like a ton of them, but I get excited about them. I don't know if it's exciting to hear about so much, but the things that was surprising when I first started to do this work was the amount of resistance and getting through other people's expectation, and just having to be like really, really solid in what it is that I know, because I'm a little like, I want everybody to be happy, and have a good experience, but that's also not mine to dictate. Like I can't do that.
Grace?
Yes, am I muted? I never know when I'm unmuted. Sorry. Well, my stories are a little different because I practice Reiki energy healing, and I see people that come maybe once. They may come back every few months for like a reset or relaxation. And then I have clients who come monthly because they're on a journey to find peace in their lives. So I had a client that started, a gentleman, and he came, the walls up, the guards up, told me nothing. And I would discuss different things from him that I was feeling. Nope, nope, nope. I'm just here because I've heard it's relaxing. And over time, little by little, he felt a little more comfortable to open up. I would feel the resistance during the session and I would pull back and he would have anxiety. And we just worked together very slow. And over a process of 2 years, he finally sat with me for about an hour after one of our sessions. And he said, I have to tell you that you've been working so hard with me for 2 years, and everything you've told me about my life, my family, what I've been through as a child, I just sat here and denied. Similar to your story, Stacy, because I was uncomfortable and embarrassed, but I knew you knew. And until the day that I was comfortable, that I felt a healing beginning, could I admit everything that you were validating for me that I've been through. He was abused as a child and he had a horrible, horrible journey to get over that, but he was holding on to it in his adult life and he wasn't able to make those connections that he wanted in relationships, in jobs. And little by little, we broke down that wall and realized that, the child is healed and he wasn't that little boy anymore. He wasn't 7 years old anymore. And it was the most amazing thing that we both cried and hugged to say that he came along this journey with me and that I helped him to change his entire life. And he apologized for not allowing me to feel validated when I would say, okay, sure. And, then you walk away and go, okay, well, that's what I was getting. I'm almost positive. Okay, he's not comfortable with telling me. So that happens a lot. But that was the one story that holds close to my heart, because I know the changes that he made in his life. I spoke to his wife and she said, I don't know what you've done, but he's a different man. And it just, it validates why we do what we do. And I continue to do that with people. If they're not comfortable, I just work with them at a slower pace. And eventually the healing process begins, because they start to accept it and they realize there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to hide, because you're here to feel better and to move on with all these issues you have in your life. So if you're here, you can't hide it from me. But I think it just takes time for them to admit it, because when you meet me, I'm a stranger. Even if you connect with me and you feel comfortable, I am a stranger. And it takes that journey before you feel comfortable. And then there's people who come for one session, they feel fabulous, we connect great, and I don't see them again for 6 months because they just need a small reset. But it's stories like that that really, really stay with me, because I feel I made a difference in his life anyway. So that's a pretty special story for me. I'll probably hold on to that one for a long time.
Hi. So when I first started doing this, I was pretty much just working with friends and family friends. And it wasn't anything that I said, oh, I want to make money at this. It was more, I was just intrigued by it. And until tonight, I didn't realize it was about my expectation about a reading. And I remember one of my first clients, and I was giving her a reading, and it was before I even became certified. So I didn't even know what the boundaries, the skill set. I was just going by my natural instinct, and it was fine, except I realized that I was just too intense. And so I needed to work out how to do this in a much more professional way. And which led me to going into the city, down to the business district. And I had this client, and she invited me into her apartment. And I don't know how she even found me. It might have been online. And she was very successful. And she went on to tell me, and I won't go into too much detail, but she was telling me that she was in this very, very toxic relationship, and he was kind of stalking her, and it was very dangerous. And she continued to stay with this person, and I didn't even know how I came up with this information, except I really trusted myself at this point. And this is after I had gotten my certification. And I said to her, well, if you let him stay, he's going to cut off all your hair. She had really long hair down to here. And it was, and as soon as I said that, she broke up with him that day, and she locked him out. And I think it was a blessing. It was like I was, we use the word conduit. I was definitely a messenger, because I don't even know where that information came from. And it could have been detrimental to her. So the reason why I'm giving that as an example is because sometimes people ask us a question and they don't realize how serious things can be. And we are there to be that person in their life that maybe changes things. And I would say anyone out there who's interested in doing this in a more professional way, and you have a calling, try it, because we're all here an example of people that have pursued it, and it's not overnight. It takes more than a minute. I've been doing this since 2015, and I still have a lot to learn. And like Michael says, and Nikola Tesla, energy, frequency, and vibration.
So I'm going to talk about an incident I had as a child, and I'm going to kind of segue that into a more recent encounter that I had. I think the one connecting line that we hear with all of us in all our stories is there's a point where we have to let go and trust. We have to just trust the information that's coming to us. And we have to push out the outside noise. Everybody around us, whether that's family, friends, coworkers, associates, everyone is going to have their opinion on this work and why we're doing it, what we're doing it, what are the reasons behind it. But I think what it comes down to is we have to honor our soul's calling. If this is our soul's calling, it's going to keep pulling and calling you back into this until you listen. And this is a very personal journey. It's our journey. It's no one else's until we start working with other people. But while we're developing and exploring and understanding it, you have to push out that outside noise because everybody's going to have an opinion. Everybody's going to want to put their input and their say of, should you do this? Shouldn't you do this? If you're truly being called to do this and do this in the right way, you're going to continually feel that pull until you honor that and you step into that and you step into your power. And I want to share a story as a little kid. So I had these experiences from a very, very young age, and having that spiritual side of my family and the very devout religious side, it was an interesting pull. It was an interesting hybridization between the two. And I can tell you, there was a moment when I was going through my my confirmation. And as I was going through the confirmation, no one had really talked to me about, oh, this is evil, or, in Deuteronomy, do not consult psychics, mediums, fortune tellers, or there's all these preconceived notions around this. And I mean, we could do a deep dive down the rabbit hole of 400 AD, Constantine taking over, the Roman Empire, taking over the church, harnessing and controlling and manipulating people's divine God-given abilities. So, and that's the whole conversation for another show. But I had a moment where I was truly, what I felt was divinely connecting to God. And I started getting all these downloads, all this insight about people that were around me. And I started talking, the priest that was, that was taking me through this particular day, I felt his father step in. And I started getting all this information about him, about his family. And I mean, very, very specific information. And I was still trying to learn and understand this. And I wasn't really sure, I felt like the information that came to me was all it was. Didn't understand this is something we could develop and learn and grow. But I had all this information come to me about a priest, and I went to the priest and I, Father, this is going to sound kind of crazy, but I think God's speaking to me about you. Oh, Michael, he's speaking to me about, oh, what? And he's saying what? And I'm like, well, he's telling me that your father's okay. And I started telling him about his father's name, how he passed. He had a heart attack, and he actually ended up having a heart attack while he was driving, and he crashed into a telephone pole and he passed in that accident. And, and I told him, I'm seeing that, your father passed very quickly and he was okay, and showed me other people there with him. And the priest just stepped back and he said, son, you got to understand, I'm the intercessor, and that's cool that information's come. And, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but he was a little freaked out that I was bringing this information through. And he said, what you need to understand is the reason why I'm here is you can talk to me and I'll be the intercessor and I'll talk to God for you. But you don't necessarily want to be doing that. You don't necessarily want to be focusing in on that information. And it was weird because immediately I felt like that doesn't feel right. I feel like this is a divine connection. Good. And it was weird because it just put such a bad taste in my mouth of this divine experience I was having. And it was basically being pushed away and pulled from me and trying to be controlled and manipulated. And that was my first real experience of connecting to someone's loved ones. And it was literally for a priest in my church, and him telling me, this is nice, this is interesting, but I'll be the intercessor. Come to me, talk to me about it, but you really don't want to do that. And it just left a really bad taste in my mouth. And I felt like this just isn't right. There's something wrong about this. This control and manipulation around this. There's just, that's when my intuitive psychic senses were flaring up going, this isn't right. There's something wrong about this. And it had me do a deep dive then into scripture. And I started studying the Old Testament, the New Testament, finding, Ephesians, all through Ephesians, they're talking about prophetic word, gift of knowledge, all these abilities and all these things. Why was he telling me this was wrong? So I think part of this process is being true to yourself and understanding that this path is your path for it to unfold in the way it needs to. And when we start listening to the outside noise, the outside perspective, the outside opinions, it can really screw us up. And, you know, I understand respecting people's beliefs and religion. And I think TV and the movies have kind of done a disservice to this. I do believe we have to respect everyone's energy, and I have to respect not just randomly finding someone in the grocery store and saying, "Hey, your mom is connecting to me." You don't know how they're going to react. You have to honor and respect someone's energy, and you have to do this in a very respectful way. And there's a process for that. And you know, I don't believe we should be imposing our energy on others. And again, like Stacy had talked about earlier, doing this from a place of service. If we're doing this from a place of service, we're going to respect somebody else's energy, and we're going to respect the time and place that we should be doing this. But again, I think the first thing that we should understand is everyone around us may have an opinion on this. But what I can tell you is, if this is truly the path that we want to follow, we have to listen to that divine connection. We have to let that flow through us, and we have to shut out the outside noise. And if you're afraid of losing friends or family members or someone close to you because you start talking about this is your gift and this is what you're being called to do, well, then maybe those connections and those people are either meant to learn it and understand it through you. You're supposed to be an awakening and maybe help them shift their perspective. But I don't believe that's what we should be focusing on. I believe we should be focusing on our path forward. And those that we're meant to be connected to will stay, and they'll understand, and they'll at least embrace the discussion around it. And those that are telling us this is evil, this is bad, or you shouldn't be doing this, well, then maybe that's a relationship or a connection that we have to distance ourselves from. But it's important that we honor this journey and this path that we're on. And if it's our soul's calling, it's going to keep calling us till we listen. I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to let everyone else kind of go around a little bit. I do have another story I want to share of a situation that happened recently in a reading, but I'm going to log off and log back on to try to get my video back up.
Okay, so he's gone for a second. And I'm going to let him close out with his story, because you ladies have been very kind to be on this long. And you can maybe tell some information about how people can reach you. I did in the introduction speak about that. We have this upcoming event April 2nd at the Manor Club, and next March 26th, we have Brett Michael Phillips, who's an MIT graduate, master healer, and miracle technologist. So, Michael, I just said that we could close out with your story, and each of the ladies right now can just give us an idea of how they can reach them if they have any upcoming events, and then you tell your story and we close out, because we're on for 2 hours now. Okay.
It's been a good 2 hours though.
Okay, so Stacy, if you would like to just tell us any upcoming events, any information.
Sure. So I'm doing that's a psychic expo April 10th at the Windrose in Ossining. So that should be fun. Doing readings at Universal Healing Arts on March 28th. And you can find me at StacySchafferMedium.com. So please check it out. It's been so much fun. I'm so thrilled that you invited me to have this discussion with you, and I look forward to more.
Yes, I want to thank both of you for having me back, because this was a pure joy for me to come back and see the both of you again. You can reach me at gracespiration.com. On all social media platforms, I'm Gracespiration. I come up, just type that in and you'll find me, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook. I don't have any upcoming events, but what I'd like to say is that I am able to see people in person and online for all the different modalities I offer. And I would love for anyone to reach out to me, because I feel that connecting to each other to get through everyday life is the most important thing. That's what I try to bring out in the world with our new podcast, The Chat Life Unfiltered, that I am a host on, because I think some people are having a hard time just navigating every life situations and then trying to tap into their intuition to see how they feel and move forward with those situations. So that's what Gracespiration and The Chat is all about, helping you move forward in your life, making the decisions that bring you to your highest, best good. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you so much, Grace, Stacy. This has been such an awesome discussion, and it's been such a thrill having both of you here. So one of the things I want to talk about just very quick with any of our listeners, if you're trying to develop your intuition, you're trying to understand your psychic abilities, you're trying to develop that mediumship connection to your loved one, don't overcomplicate it and don't overthink it. I think one of the reoccurring themes here is, get out of that left brain, get out of that analytical mind. And there are going to be times where something doesn't necessarily make sense. And it may not make sense in that moment. But again, like Stacy was talking about with her client, a couple of days out, a week out, it may make perfect sense. Trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust that guidance. Don't overthink it, and understand that it may not be this blast of super psychic, information that comes over you. It could be a very, very subtle piece of information. And I'm going to comment, one of our listeners here, Pam Parada, had commented in here that she's a firm believer at the very first, what she calls pop. And then when you start thinking about it, it clouds your real intuition. Absolutely, Pam, if you're still listening. And we truly need to trust that first piece of information that comes through. And as a medium, I'm going to talk about a reading that I did a few weeks back. And a lot of times, again, we want to try to bring through healing. We want to try to bring through the best evidence and the knowledge and the wisdom. But if we get so caught up in that, if we get so caught up in our head of trying and, grabbing the information and trying to strive for perfection and this achievement of this certain level of mediumship, a lot of times that blocks the energy out. It's a matter of getting into a flow state, and just allowing that information to flow through us. So it's not about overthinking it. It's not about analyzing it. At this point, it's not about critical thinking. It's about letting go and allowing that information to flow through us as the conduit. So I had a reading a few weeks back, a private reading, and it was a husband and wife. And this is all about energy. So the wife dragged the husband along, and it was a double reading. They were both sitting in the room, and the husband just sat there, and he looked so pissed off. And all I could think is, oh man, what is this? Is like, this guy obviously thinks this is very skeptical. He obviously hasn't been to a mediumship reading, or he has, and they didn't go well, or didn't, weren't what his expectation was. And the first thing I did was diffuse the situation. I said, well, I'm going to go to your energy first, even though this is your wife's reading. You're here, and either you're very skeptical or you've had bad readings, and I started laughing, and I had to kind of break the energy a little bit, because if I got caught up in my head that this guy is a skeptic and he's not going to believe anything I'm saying, then I would be overthinking this. I would be getting into critical thinking. I would be getting into trying to achieve a level of mediumship that I might not achieve, striving for certain information. So I just had to let go, and I had to have a little fun with it. So that's what I said to him. Look, I know you're probably very skeptical, or you think this is totally crazy stuff, and I'm okay with that. But I'm going to connect to your energy first. And I, ask all my clients, is it okay if I connect to your energy? And I trust spirit, and I'm going to let spirit bring the information through that they need to bring through. And I'm not going to strive to try to hit any goal or milestone in this reading. I'm just going to be a conduit. I'm not going to worry and concern myself. And that was part of it, is letting go and trusting. And the funny thing is, first person that came through was his grandmother, with a name, the date she passed, talking about their Catholic upbringing. And we'll develop signs and symbols with our guides, with our loved ones. We'll develop a language of energy, and my language, knowing that I'm going to be with a very either conflicted or devout Catholic upbringing or religious connection that could have a lot of skepticism with it, that loved one will usually hand me her rosary beads. And it was interesting because I asked them to show me something specific, give me details that can, show this person that your loved ones are here. And his mother brought through these rosary beads, which were very specific. They were ornate wooden rosary beads with a certain type of cross. And I'm like, so either you have them or they were very significant around her and you know about them. And this is after names and dates and very critical pieces of information. It was all of a sudden him like this to him, this is very interesting. He looked a little startled. And yes, I have those rosary beads. And I'm like, okay, so now you need to understand. I started talking about this is an energetic connection, and they weren't there for him. They were there. Well, they were both there, but not for that particular reason. And I knew I had to open and connect to his energy first in order to kind of bring their guard down. And rather than me trying to pull this energy through, I needed it to flow. So this was trusting in spirit and just trusting in the information, not overthinking it and just letting that information flow. So then gave him some critical pieces of information, talked a little bit about what he was navigating in his life, things that his loved ones wanted to talk about. And then I turned to his wife, and it was almost like, okay, now my husband's on board with this now. And there was a little sense of relief. I could feel that energy. And then I knew this was, they had gone through some very deep grief. I could feel the energy. I could feel the pain. Now our collective and the loved ones in spirit, they will utilize information and knowledge and wisdom that we've experienced, we had, or we're privy to, so they're going to utilize kind of our bank of information like an encyclopedia. So if there's something they experience that we haven't experienced, we may not completely tune into it, or we may get certain aspects of it, or maybe we'll hear it and they can share it with us. But I immediately started seeing the energy of a young male come in, and he handed me what I saw to be the Desert Storm. I saw the symbol of Desert Storm, the shield, the colors. And I know that because I had several good friends that were in the military that were in Desert Storm. And literally this young gentleman comes in, he's in his military fatigues. And I start seeing, and I wasn't hearing his name, but I was seeing the initial of C. Well, his name was Christopher C. And, and I kept on seeing CJ, and it happened to be, that was his nickname. CJ was his nickname. So, but the most crucial thing was talking about, I see a Desert Storm shield. I see the Desert Storm shield and CJ stepping in, and I do believe this is your son. And that was it. The tears started flowing. And then Mom tells me, okay, that's him. This is who we wanted to connect to. And he started showing me his dog tags. And I said, you have your son's dog tags with you. You brought them here. And that was it. It was like, that was the validation they needed. He was in Desert Storm. He was killed in Desert Storm. And then Mom tells me, well, I've been to 40 plus mediums, and no one's brought him through. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but I'm saying this as if I had known that before going into the reading, that they've been trying to get information or had a code word, or the medium had to tell them the Desert Storm shield and that his dog tags were in her pocketbook, this would have been the worst reading of my life. And I would have been so caught up in my head, I probably wouldn't have brought through any information. But because I had no idea about any of them, I had no idea about their information, I had no idea why they were sitting with me, and I just trusted the information, her loved one, her son, was able to bring through that crucial piece of information, that crucial insight and guidance to show her that he's still around and I can connect to him. And if I can connect to him, then she and her husband can still connect to him. It just may be a process. And it's very important to understand we have to trust this information. We can't strive for these achievements and to do it at a certain level. Look, we all want to bring through the information, the guidance, and the validating pieces that can show your loved ones here. But if that's what our goal and our focus is, and it's not trusting and being of service, then it can be a disaster. So that's the one thing I'm going to say. And the one connecting line is, do this for the right reasons. If you're going to do it, you want to do this work, like we are. If you want to serve others, if you want to show others the continuity of life exists, or you want to bring through psychic guidance and information for someone to navigate in the best possible way. And that's what we have to ask ourselves when the information's coming through. Well, does this information serve this person in the best possible way? Is it uplifting? Is it helpful? You know, why am I receiving this information? And if we can answer yes to those questions, then we're doing this for the right reason. And then it's not our ego, or it's not our mind trying to manipulate, misconstrue. So part of this process is letting go and trusting. And I think that's probably the most integral foundation for anyone starting this journey, learning about their intuition, learning about their psychic abilities. It's a journey. It's a learning that we never stop trying to grow into and understand new complexities about it. Think of it as a musician, you know, and a musician may start learning guitar and may sit down and be able to play some power chords, but then eventually they're able to solo. Maybe they start playing rock and roll music, but then they can start learning aspects of classical and jazz and country. This is an ongoing learning experience. As we're going to continually be learning and growing with it, but trusting and not overthinking it is the foundation to understanding your intuition. And I'm disappearing again. My invisibility cloak is sucking me into the abyss.
We'll have to have you two back at another time, and we'll have to have another topic. And so I'm so grateful that everyone was here tonight. Michael's probably going to pop right on before we go. And I did try to bring up as many comments as I could. And we did have some really nice comments at the very end. People were saying, looks great. Great questions for the guests. Many people have disbelief with your abilities. Sherry said, thank you all so much. Gina Garcia said, great conversation. Thank you all. Kevin Haggerty said, great. Oh, you're on there twice, Michael. Let me take you off. Really great guests. So we are so grateful that everyone joined us tonight, and I'll bring everybody out, and we'll probably all echo at the same time. But
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you so much, Stacy. Thank you so much, Mary. All of your energies combined kept psychic overloading my camera, I think.
Knocking you off.
It's all good, and you are both phenomenal. Thank you so much for being here with Two Psychics. I think anybody watching this episode can understand the basis of why we do this and why it's so important we talk about this, and the reasons why we do this. So thank you so much for sharing your insight, your guidance, tips, techniques, and it was a pleasure having both of you here.
Thank you, and we will invite you for our 100th episode in June. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll be back again next Thursday night for episode 85. Bye, everyone. Bye, Grace. Bye, Mike. Bye, Stacy.
Have a good night. Welcome to Two Psychics. This is Michael Edley, evidential medium and mystic, discussing all things spiritual.
Hello, I'm Mary Amy of Two Psychics, an intuitive wisdom coach, tapping into your mystical life and sharing messages I receive about you.